All right, guys. So it's really exciting. You've just had your offer accepted on a property, and the agent asks you to sign a contract, and you get a little nervous. We're going to step you through the do's and don'ts of signing with your real estate agent when buying a property. Stay tuned.
I'm the ringleader, so listen up.
Good morning.
Billy Drury, hello. How are you?
Really well. I feel for first home buyers, just nervous people when it gets to the dotted line, people start to shake.
Yeah, you're saying it's the first home buyers having a bit of a hard time. You don't believe that. You reckon the 5% deposit's a little bit of a false sense of
Security,
reality,
I think.
security.
I just watched a really good piece over the weekend. In long story short, to take out a loan of $1.5 million, you need a household income of 250,000. And so to look at the people that need the help in getting their property purchase, it's not really the people that need help with saving as such. It's people need help with getting their hands on the cash from the bank. So it's putting a lot more competition into the market under that price point, under $1.5 million.
Yep.
And deposit's not really the problem for people. It's the servicing, getting their hands on the money.
Responsible lending.
Mm.
Mm.
But we're talking about signing without your solicitor this morning. Be warned, buyer, be warned, careful, careful. But
Yes.
there's actually some really interesting context to this. Can you talk us through the history of the gazumping laws?
Yeah, so it used to be real bad. So agents would just rip people through properties, and they go, "Oh, I love it," and then they go, "Oh, okay, let's get the solicitors involved." Um, and then it could take weeks to get a contract ready. While that contract was getting prepared by solicitors, other buyers would come along. So in 1986, there was a whole bunch of legislation that came in around anti-gazumping. Because when you miss a property, that's what that's called. When one bidder comes up on another bidder, and then they talked about the cooling off period, and they made that standard in the contract. So what you may not know is in New South Wales, it is impossible to buy a property and be locked in, a residential property straight away and be locked in straight away. It is mandatory that there's a 5-day cooling off period in the contract when you sign it. And the whole purpose of introducing that speed in 1986 was, well, basically, to take you out of that no man's land zone where your offer is accepted and there's nothing to sign for weeks and weeks and weeks, and other buyers come along. It was a big problem. So they made it mandatory that you must have a contract prepared for sale. They made it mandatory that you have a cooling off period. They really brought in some solid legislation around it that we abide to these days.
Yeah, it hasn't changed. It's probably some of the best legislation I've seen to reinforce commitment from an owner to a buyer,
Yeah.
and the buyer putting down almost like an expression of interest. It's a 1/4% deposit, 0.25% of the purchase price. So $1 million, 2,500, and it was a good sum of money where it was large enough to be a good expression of interest and not little enough for an owner to say, well, we can have multiple offers taken at one time. So a buyer can buy a property without their solicitor looking through the contract, for as little as a 1/4% deposit, 0.25, and then have the contract reviewed in the duration of a 5 business day period. However, it's not taken up that often, I must say.
What do you mean?
What I'm
Hello?
finding, if you're interested,
Huh?
what I'm finding more and more and more now is that buyers actually want to do all of the due diligence up front, and so their
Birds.
solicitor does the contract review, the strata report review. Sometimes even get the broker to do their financial valuation review before they've exchanged.
before it's done.
And yeah,
It's also I think what the great thing about, like, sure, people are doing the due diligence, but it's a sign of the market. So there's sort of three different markets. There's a buyer's market, there's a seller's market, and there's a balanced market where it's sort of it's going shifting towards one or the other, sort of in between. And it depending on those markets is depending on how much we're using cooling offs and how much we're using unconditionals. So in a bull market, real bull market, it just goes unconditional straight away, and people are exchanging real quick. Heading towards that bull, that sellers market, bull market, then I find the cool offs will be used a lot. When it's a buyer's market, as in there's a lot of stock on the market, heaps of selection, even prices maybe going down a little bit, that's when I find that buyers are doing all their due diligence first, not putting down any money. Would you, or have you, Billy? Would you? Two questions. Sign on a cooling off period or unconditional? How would you do it? Because you can void the 5 day cooling off if you just want to lock in straight away. By the way, the sellers aren't locking in. The seller, even when the seller enters a cooling off period, the cooling off is for the buyer, not the seller. So the seller can't actually get out of the cooling off period if they change their mind. What do you prefer,
yeah.
Billy?
I think unconditional is a fantastic way to strengthen your terms without increasing your price. And so in a negotiation at any one time, you can either negotiate price or terms. You can find out what the owner wants in that position and then mold yourself to be that buyer, be that candidate, what they're looking for. So I see a lot of people have success with putting forward an unconditional offer. And many a times the owners, if they're comparing a small difference in price, will take stronger terms, knowing it's solid. Once they've signed, they've sold, over a little bit more money and uncertainty. However, as a buyer, I've used the cool-off period as well. And another thing as a buyer you can do is extend your cool-off period. You can sign with 5 days.
It's a good one.
But you can always put a request in for an extension. Now, my recommendation is not to request the extension at the start because you've already got 5 days. And sometimes if you request 10 days up front, which I do see a little bit, sellers will almost think, well, that's a bit strange. I don't normally see 10 days, but they're well accustomed to 5. So get through your 5 days. If you need an extra day or two, most owners are pretty accepting, and that's where it pays dividends to have good relationship and good communication with your real estate agent through the 5 days, because if you're keeping them updated along the way, they'll be able to communicate that to the owner. Generally on day 6 or 7, they know it's just the finishing touches and a few loose ends.
So and does it cost you to get the extension of the cool off? People may be wondering.
No extension. There's no dollar term on it. Maybe just a couple of emails back and forth with the solicitors, but no, not at all.
Okay. And so exchanging on a cool off, guys, today, it is okay. It's been around now for 86 to now. It's almost, what's that? 15, 30. It's 40 years.
Yeah.
Far out.
So
it's just had its end of it. It's coming up with that legislation, and it's protection, really. I think for it's protection that was introduced for the buyer, and I think it's good to take it out of the heat zone, because often we find there's no buyer on the property, and then when it's time to when offer accepted time comes around, there's like a scrabble of 2 buyers, 3 buyers, 4 buyers, and you're like, how did that happen? So it's actually sometimes really good, just putting it into a cool off, and it just sort of gets rid of all the other buyers, or your competition's locked out, when you're a buyer. So yeah, sign that contract and feel confident. It's the right thing to do. And if you can do any checkups before, great. But I wouldn't be delaying getting that contract signed.
We'll put it this way: it's delay it or miss out, or commit, move forward, and the most risk you take on is your 0.25% deposit.
Yep.
So if you forfeit, you choose to rescind the contract, that's what you lose, nothing more.
There you go. Betty Drew, thank you very much. And people, hope we helped you. And any questions, you can always give us a call anytime.
Anytime.
All right.
Yep.
Thanks. And you'll end this for me. Billy, you'll end the live, yeah? Thank
We'll
you.
end the
See you guys.